Welcome back. It's turning out to be a solid day for the equity markets. We're holding out by 200 points on the Sensex for the Nifty at 15,393. Adani Transmission, SAIL, Tata Steel, JSW Steel, Hindustan Zinc as well as ONGC are rather active. And of course, the slew of PSU banks that are lined up for privatization, they're all abuzz in today's trading session. Well, let's hear it then from a big voice, an ET Now exclusive. He's an early investor in Clubhouse, Superhuman, and the ex-CTO of crypto exchange Coinbase. Meet one of Silicon Valley's most renowned investors and entrepreneurs, Dr. Balaji Srinivasan. He's relocating to India and Singapore, and because that's really where he believes all the action is. Let's get you an edited excerpt of Balaji's first television interview to an Indian news channel. Here he is in conversation with Nayantara Rai.
You know, India has people who are internationally competitive in, not just speaking English, but abroad. There's SAJA, South Asian Journalists Association in the U.S. There's M. Night Shyamalan, of course, is just a leading edge, in Hollywood. There's all of these, software engineers. And there's also a lot of animation talent in India, where it's the back end of a lot of, Hollywood special effects. If you saw Tenet, the end of Tenet has a lot of Indian names there. And, a lot of media is becoming software. So with so-called virtual influencers, for example, right now, the way that people experience celebrities is, through Instagram or through Twitter. They see photos of celebrities, movies, etc. But those photos and videos can be computer generated. And so we're starting to have virtual influencers, like Lil Miquela is like one of the first versions of this. But these are essentially almost like Mickey Mouse. They're purely animated creatures. They're not human beings. They're just programs. And as software engineers, you can create media like that. The other thing is that, so that's like one huge area, let's call it decentralized Hollywood, where, essentially engineers can create first-class movies, starting with actors, starting with influencers, but then eventually going to like full scripts and full movies. A second big area is in terms of writing. With hundreds of millions of Indians that have now just come online with Reliance Jio, there's going to be a ton of talent that is now able to access, that can access the global internet. And, a lot of people, I think, they underrate India because they think of India as a market. And yes, it's a market. It's a big market. That's an important thing. I'm not saying that's not important. But it's not just a place to sell to. It's a place to produce things. And I think that the production of not just software, but of media, of content, is something that can be done on phones. And that's writing, that's videos, that's memes, that's all of this type of stuff, where people have talked about, quote, BPO, business process outsourcing of technical talent, but the verbal talent, the artistic talent, that really hasn't happened yet, not at the scale that I think is possible. And I think that's a huge thing, especially as the West has sort of been in a loop on this. Hollywood is just producing sequel after sequel. It doesn't have the energy anymore. It doesn't have the cultural vitality. Whereas, for example, the movie Super 30, right? Or the slogan of your show that you rise with India. That's a positive vision that I don't think Indians realize how important that is.
Balaji, if I can now talk to you about cryptocurrencies. You wrote this very provocative blog, which at the time of this recording is pinned on your Twitter handle, Why India Must Buy Bitcoins, where you made a case about how if we ban Bitcoins, which is what the move right now is by the Narendra Modi government, they don't want to allow private cryptocurrencies, as per the finance minister's statement in Parliament. You've seen this as a way of going back to licensing Raj of sorts, of missing the next liberalization era.
That's right. And I think that actually one of the reasons I wanted to speak up on this is I think this is not a small issue. This is a really big issue. And this is comparable to banning the internet, because it's like banning the financial internet. And what will happen is India will have to legalize it eventually in 2025 or 2030 or what have you, but will have missed out in trillions of dollars of economic growth, because it's going to happen. It is happening in the rest of the world. And so it'd be like this huge, setback for India if it did this. And I think that I'm sympathetic, by the way, to the idea that, there's, you may want to prevent certain downsides, like, if there's national security issues, but that can be done much more cheaply than $1 trillion in cost. And, it's kind of like in the US after 9/11, there were a bunch of regulations that were pushed through, like Patriot Act and surveillance things and so on, that ultimately didn't have really the cost benefit of a surgical approach. And I think that in the same way, you can do a surgical approach here that will cost much less, that'll get you much more benefit in terms of tracking bad actors. I've got a second essay coming out on that topic. As opposed to this sledgehammer approach, which is sort of like stopping drunk driving by banning cars, and that's not a good cost benefit for anybody.
So, you said that banning it could be like as bad as banning the internet. But having said that, what about a calibrated approach? The finance minister has said private cryptocurrencies looking like it's going to be banned. But what about if the RBI comes out with its own blockchain, its own cryptocurrency, a digital rupee recognized by the sovereign?
So I think it's a great idea to do a digital rupee. I think that's an awesome idea. But the thing about the private cryptocurrency ban is it hasn't been thought through, I would argue. And I think that what you should actually do is regulate cryptocurrencies like foreign exchange. And because that's an existing regulatory regime that already exists, that's well understood, and treat cryptocurrencies as if they are foreign currencies. And let me give several reasons for that. First, India is not the only country that's doing national digital currencies. Others are as well. And one country's national digital currency is another country's cryptocurrency, in the sense that the Brazilian real or the British digital pound would be like a foreign digital currency if held within India. And the mechanics of exactly how those national digital currencies work may differ from place to place, but I designed something that was like that. I worked on something that was like that at Coinbase when I was CTO of Coinbase, called USDC. It's the second largest stable coin in the world, basically something that's very similar to what a national digital currency would look like for transmitting dollars on crypto networks. And the point is that I can hold an API key on a machine that has an arbitrary amount of this national digital currency. It's not quite as unrestricted as a cryptocurrency, but it's much less unrestricted than a traditional, bank account. So it's somewhere in the middle. The point being that, number one, Indians, just like they hold pounds and they hold dollars and they hold yen and so on, are also going to be holding foreign digital currencies. Number one, that's just going to happen because India is part of the global economy. Number two, millions of Indians also are going to be holding cryptocurrencies, because those cryptocurrencies are becoming important, not simply for digital gold, but for decentralized data storage, for decentralized computation, for various kinds of uses on decentralized networks, just like you would use Dropbox for storage. You'd use like these decentralized file storage things for decentralized storage. And you might use that, for example, to archive a file so that it doesn't get taken down from the internet. Let's say you're publishing a paper. You might use it for other kinds of things. And the point being that you're going to need this for designing various kinds of applications, and that would all be cut off from India because people wouldn't even be able to buy Bitcoin or cryptocurrency.
That's the view coming in from a rare voice on Indian television, Balaji Srinivasan, talking about how India will have to eventually legalize cryptos by 2025, 2030, and how, as of now, we can be the next big creator of global media.